Don't mess up.
Yeah, I think we're on.
Yep.
Done. Hold on. It's redirecting. We should be live here any second.
I think, Adam, that we are.
We are live. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live. Again, our goal with these Facebook Lives is to add value to you all, our community. At Sharp Retention, we have thousands of clients and hundreds of top producing realtors and lenders across the U.S. and Canada. My partner, Sarah, and I, we've been doing this for over 30 years now combined. And our goal is just to share the best practices of our preeminent producers in the business. So today, we have none other than the legendary Sam Hansen of the Gaylord Hansen Mortgage Team. I've known Sam and his business partner, Bill Gaylord, for about 10 years now. And just last month, Sam's team helped 93 families for $49.68 million in loan value last month alone. Let that sink in, guys. That is insane. 58 of those 93 loans were purchases for $31.18 million. So, you know, they're out there still working to get that new business, which is important. And this is the largest purchase volume in the history of Sam and Bill's team, and second largest overall loan amount ever for Sam's team. So to say that Sam's crushing it would truly be the understatement of the century. And as a side note, Sam's a great guy. I've known him for a long time, family man. I think originally from Spokane, Washington, God's country, as we know, as we were just talking about. I think he spent some time in Arizona, but good old Spokane. And just to kind of go down real quick before I bring Sam in here, I remember Sam telling me, gosh, it was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, we were having coffee in Del Mar. I remember it like it was yesterday, sunny day. And I've heard this millions of times from millions of different realtors and lenders. I'm going to be doing hundreds of loans and we're going to be your biggest client and all this stuff. And in the back of my mind, knowing that Sam was legit, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, you know, maybe, right? I've heard that a lot of times. And here we are today. Sam is ripping the cover off the ball, doing everything that he said he was going to do and being in integrity with his word, which is just as cool as putting up that kind of volume. So, Sam, can you hear us okay, my friend?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction, and it's fun to hear somebody say that back, because we always talk about the worst publicity we can believe is our own. So you guys, you know, you build a great team, and you set a really good standard for how to sell. You guys do, and do it right and authentically. So I'm honored to be on with you. I have Samantha with me here, and hopefully we can have a little bit of fun here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Looking forward to it. And so, yeah, just want to kind of kick it off with, you know, the number one thing that I like to go into before we get into really tactical things that people can do to, you know, have a better business no matter where they're at and get to the next level. But tell us a little bit, Sam, about your story. You know, when did you get in? Why'd you get in? Why loans? Like, how did that all go down? And tell us just a little bit about your own personal story.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick, quick summary. I mean, I went to one of the 5 federal U.S. academies. The one I went to is called the United States Merchant Marine Academy in Long Island. There's like 4 different degrees you get there. One of them is systems engineering, but it has an emphasis on the marine industry, shipbuilding, or sailing. So I went there, got recruited to San Diego, which is how I got here. And I worked at General Dynamics NASCO for almost 10 years. And during that tenure there, I ended up buying a house, ended up renting that house, buying another house. And the gentleman that was helping me do the loans, I was super interested in, like, hey, what are you doing and how are you doing it? He kind of told me a little bit. So I started reading some books about real estate and finance, and it just really interested me. So I ended up changing careers and getting into the mortgage business. Just fell into it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's typically how that goes down. We've noticed. And how would you say that background in terms of it kind of sounds like an engineering type of background, like structured. How would you say some of what you learned there either applies or has helped you in terms of becoming a loan officer and producing, and then going on to really scale your production through a team?
Yeah, I mean, it really set the foundation. I was in production engineering, so I was out in the field every day. I was a Marine. I was a machinery space guy. So probably the biggest thing it taught me is that, we were building 1,000-foot long ships and tankers and stuff like that. So the biggest lesson I learned from there is you can't do anything alone. You really need good people. You have to build a team to do anything that's impactful. So that's probably the biggest foundation I learned from there. When you have millions and millions of parts to build a ship, you need systems and processes and structure. So that probably served us well so far, moving into this business. And, that's probably the two biggest things I learned from there. And it's been really helpful.
Yeah. So before, kind of doing that, tell us about maybe like your first year or two of like being a loan officer, and how did that go? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Like, yeah, you systems and all that and team is cool, but like at first you got to sell something, right? So how was the transition going from being not really a purebred necessarily salesperson? Now you're doing tons of loans, but like some people are like, I'm not much of a salesman. So how is it going from non-salesman to becoming a salesperson?
Well, interestingly enough, when you're shipbuilding, you have a customer, you have regulatory bodies, and you are every day selling the product to the customer and the regulators, that everything's operating properly and installed properly. And so I think there was a good foundation of selling there. I did both for a couple years. I would go to work pretty much all day, and then I would go to the office and originate and start taking applications and just calling people I know and, how can I save them money if it was a refinance or who wants to buy a house. So I was, I was doing it for 2 or 3 hours a night, and it was a pretty big change. I mean, it was really odd. I mean, the time I got into, I was kind of a math guy. So, being taught how to calculate if somebody can qualify for a loan and then saying, oh yeah, you can just, put whatever you want for their income. I was just flabbergasted by it. I just couldn't believe, like, really, this is how we do this? So it was a little odd to me back in those, pre 2007 days. But, I learned really, really fast. It was one of those sink or swim type atmospheres. And, you got to the point where you could only do so much, ended up switching 100%. And then started, working on figuring out how to lead and build a team and stuff like that.
That's awesome. And how did you know it was time to switch? I feel like a lot of people kind of do that transition, which I think is smart. If you're going to go into any kind of commission only sales or starting a business, I don't think, unless you're sitting on a big chunk of liquidity or something, it's not super smart to just quit your day job. How did you know it was time to switch and full-time be a mortgage broker and build a team? How did you know?
There was never, it was always a scary time. I mean, I had to save some money. The biggest, thing that pushed me off the cliff was, I had 2 young kids at the time, and, I wasn't seeing my family that much, and that's unhealthy overall for everything. So the biggest push was, hey, I can't keep burning the candle at both ends here. So we just made a decision, my wife and I, and gave my notice at National Steel and Shipbuilding, General Dynamics, and went to work the next day. So that was probably the biggest kicker is I needed to have some more balance.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. And what would you say was kind of like your big turning point to like, getting from, okay, now you're full-time doing this. What do you feel like was the turning point to going from where you guys were at to where you're at now? Like some people it's coaching, it's accountability. Some people it's learning. Some people it's time blocking, partners. Like, what would you say kind of like the big turning point was to get you guys to the point where, like I said, you guys almost did 100 loans last month, which is just crazy. So, what was the big turning point, would you say, if you had to pick one?
Yeah, no, I mean, I had to learn the business, for several years. I started managing a branch after I originated. Then I started managing multiple branches. When you have success in origination, they usually try to promote you to manage branches or regions. I did that. And then we had the 2008 crash. And that's when I met Bill, and we decided, hey, the standards, we think are super low in this business. Let's get together. Let's build an origination team. Let's learn, let's lead it properly. And the biggest turning point was probably about 6 years ago. Bill and I saw Rick Ruby in Las Vegas. He gave a talk for about an hour and a half to the crowd, and I think about half the crowd hated him, and Bill and I loved him. And so the biggest turning point was we did join the core. The core is about leadership, building a team, taking care of people, so that those people can take care of clients. It's very tactical. You're coached by somebody that actually is in the business. And so that was probably our biggest turning point, where we all started kind of rowing in the same direction and setting our vision and what does it look like, and really started to build a team about 5.5 years ago.
Okay, nice. And a little bit on you and Bill, because Sarah and I are about 5 years into our partnership. You and Bill, have a decade-long successful partnership. And I compare it to a marriage oftentimes, right? Where it's like you got to divide roles and responsibilities. You share a checking account. It's like, it's serious, right? And I think a lot of people sometimes get into partnerships when people say it doesn't work out. They don't do their due diligence. Obviously, there's going to be challenges. Would you mind telling us a little bit about why you think your and Bill's partnership has worked so well for people on the call that are thinking about, gosh, it would be really cool to partner with this person. What do you need to do beforehand to make sure that's going to work? How do you need to set that up? And what are kind of the advantages that have made you guys successful as partners?
Yeah, I think, it's just like a team. Like, the foundation is built on trust. Like, I never second guess what he does. He doesn't second guess what I do. It doesn't mean we both make mistakes. But it really is a trust thing. This isn't, a 9-inning game where we're at, inning number 6 and we have 3 innings left. I mean, it's an infinite game of stability and long-term growth. So it really is a trust thing. Sometimes I do more than him. He knows that. Sometimes he does more than me. I know that. So we just have a really trusting relationship. And I think, if you read the 5 dysfunctions of a team from Patrick Lencioni, the foundation of any type of relationship or team is trust. So that's probably what it is. You got to give more than you take. And if you both give more than you take, then I think that leads to a successful partnership.
What was that book called again for people that are viewing in right now?
Oh, well, Patrick Lencioni, he wrote The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And it's a good one, but one of my favorites is written by him also, and it's called The Advantage. And so those are really, really good books to read or listen to. And
what's The Advantage about? What'd you take away from that?
My biggest takeaway from The Advantage is that the success, the long-term success of any organization, any business, any team is the actual organizational health itself. So 90% of the success is built on the organizational health of a team, and 10% is strategy and finance and marketing. So it really kind of breaks that down, and it's an awesome book.
So diving into that. Well, yeah, diving into that, and Sam, you might have some input obviously here, but talk about the health of your team, the culture. If you feel it's a real differentiator, as it sounds like there, and obviously I think we all have learned that along the way. But what are some things either that you guys feel like you're really doing right, or even some learning things where it's like, that was a big wake up call. Glad we stopped doing that.
Yeah, Sam.
Me, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say I'm Bill. And then another reason why they're really good now, by the way, is because Bill's in Vegas, so they have some space. That's important in relationships too.
Yeah.
Sarah
space never hurts.
Okay.
Yeah, so, Sarah and I are 3,000 miles apart, so we joke.
Yeah,
that was different time zones.
Exactly. So. Yeah, I mean, Bill and Sam have done such a good job in terms of talking about organizational health. It's been a balance of fighting, how many meetings we have, if we have too many meetings, if we don't have too many meetings, like listening to feedback, that's super important. Open forums, I know, where you can actually speak about things that either are going right or aren't going right without fear of, repercussions. That's been super helpful. And I think being open with each other allows us to also have better relationships just as friends. A lot of us are out and have different relationships. We have a hiking group. We do happy hours together where we really trust each other, not just here. It makes everything a little bit better where we can feel like we can be ourselves.
Yeah.
You know,
how big is the team? Curious.
Like third.
Probably it's about 40 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
yeah, the culture, all the things that you're talking about right there. And I love it being called organizational health. I'm just curious too, is there anything that really is a little bit of glue, whether or not it's on a snapshot, like in our day, we do a daily huddle, and whether or not, Adam's, again, we're different time zones, and we've got some folks in some different states, Oregon and Atlanta and all these places, but we have a huddle and everybody calls in and we hit 3 things. Something hot, gratitude, and really what's your one thing today. But we kind of center around that communication, especially because we are all uniquely dispersed. But is there anything, you mentioned meetings, too many, not enough, but any tool or activity like that just really you guys pay some credit to?
Yeah, I mean, what we've learned is that the very first thing as leaders, and I consider everyone leaders, anybody that influences other people when it comes to the borrower or real estate agents or title or escrow or all the different people in our business. As leaders, for me and Bill, though, the most important thing is you got to set a vision. It's got to be a very explicit, here's where we're going, here's how we're getting there, this is what it looks like. And once you have that, you got to share it. I constantly think we're broken. And that's one of the philosophies of the core is, we're still broken. We need to get better. You can never stop growing and getting a better organization, serving more people. So the first thing is setting a vision and sharing the vision and leading that vision with trust. The people have to trust where you're going. You have to lead with optimism. They have to be empowered. We're not micromanagers. We're the opposite of micromanagers. We empower people to do their job, make decisions on their own, solve problems. And when they make when they make mistakes, which we all do, we have their back. That's probably, from a high level perspective, we actually follow a system in a book called Traction. And the book, it talks about, it gives you some structure, but there's something called a VTO, a Vision Traction Organizer. It's very specific. It's 2 pages. It tells you what does it look like in 10 years? What does it look like in 3 years? What's our 1-year plan? What are our issues? And how we solve them. So that's a really good book for people to read if you're, building an organization, growing a team, leading a team. So that's probably some of the framework. We don't have a daily huddle, although I hope my coach doesn't hear that. But we do have very specific meetings every Monday morning. I mean, one of the most critical things is to make sure that the financing that we're in process, gets done and executed properly and on time, and people have a good experience. So we every Monday morning we go over every file that is not on track, where it has particular areas in the workflow that are past due. And our system that we use specifically tells us where to focus. So that would be our Monday morning meeting. Wednesday, we meet with the sales team each and every week. It's usually some type of coaching, mentoring, scripting. We might watch videos. We'll talk about strategy. And then Friday, we have an all hands meeting where, we go over a specific agenda for the week.
Got it.
Nice.
And Samantha, you were saying something I liked where you talking about culture building, doing things outside of work, right? Building personal relationships, because it is all about trust. That all a business is a group of people that do things together, right? I think it was one of my friends that told me that. I'm like, yeah, I guess the business is just a bunch of people doing stuff together. And so you need to trust each other. And you said something about you can kind of call each other out. And my wife has a saying, I don't know if she's subliminally coaching me, but sometimes she'll say honesty without tact is the same as cruelty. And so how do you bring it up to team members, Samantha, or to Bill and Sam or whatnot, when there's something going on and it's on your mind, like, how do you have I know you guys have the trust to do it, but what's situationally appropriate? Do you guys have a meeting? Like, how do you bring up things when you have 40 people on a team? I'm sure there's a lot of things going wrong at any given time. Yeah. What do? You take that person aside, you send them an email. How do you guys handle conflict on the team?
Oh my gosh. I guess it all depends on personalities too. We've done a lot of learning. You know, they also invested a lot in us in terms of learning. So I feel like there's a lot of things I've learned just through books, like our book club or something like that. So I think about the personality of the person. It depends on how they take things. And we know each other well enough to be like, what's the most appropriate thing? Like, you know, Sam is super busy. Is this really an issue that we can't just communicate about? Is it going to hurt your feelings if I say it to you straight, I have a problem with this? Or is it better to come like, hey, this might be an issue and I really think we need to figure it, you know? So it's more just like how each individual person is to figure out the approach. But everybody's so different. We all kind of figure out ways to do it. And then if we need help, then we'll be like, hey, Sam, what do we resolve this? But
we definitely have problems. I mean, you know, we focus on organizational health every day, but, you know, we fall off track. We get into different issues. You know, we do have meetings where, you know, the meetings are for conflict. So everybody's free to bring things up. And, you know, those don't even always go perfect either because
conflict meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's
That's
time
awesome.
for conflict. Yeah. So, you know, it's a whole spectrum. Like you can't have just pure harmony and pretend everything's okay. It never is. And you can't get mean on the other side of the spectrum and, you know, not be kind and empathetic with people. So there's some happy medium where, you know, people can trust each other, bring up problems. Not all problems and many problems are not easy to solve, but it really comes down to that foundational trust, different perspectives, really putting yourself in the other person's shoes. What are they going through? You know, how can I help them? I mean, we always talk about the enemy is on the, you know, the competition is on the outside. Like the last thing we should be doing is hurting ourselves on the inside. So, you know, the Vision Traction Organizer has, it solves for this. Also, it's called the issues list, and then the issues list turn into rocks and rocks get solved. So it's a really good book, but you know, even that, you know, even sometimes we don't follow through all the way with, you know, our VTO and our follow through meetings. I mean, we got really busy in March and April, and we should have been, you know, reviewing our rocks for the first quarter. So we're a little behind with that. But there's always something to work on. You know, we are fortunate enough to have a coach. You're always coached by somebody in the core that is doing more than you, that's bigger than you. You know, it runs on the bigger pile principle. So, you know, every 2 weeks I have a full hour. I can call any coach, you know, anytime I need help, ask questions. What you know, what do you recommend here? You know, you can't have an ego. You can't pretend you know it all. You can't solve everything yourself. You got to ask for help. I can't, you know, I used to think I had to do everything myself. I used to think I had to know everything or they might think I'm weak. You know, I've learned over the years, hey, it's okay. I don't know. The team knows so much more about our system, our loans, our guidelines, you know, than me. And it's okay that I don't know, you know, that's why we all are more powerful together. So, but that's some of the things we do.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I took like a half a page of notes there. Yeah. And you know, yeah, you have to, it's that balance between understanding that to be a leader, you also have to be humble because you got to be able to lead yourself and you have to be willing to learn. And if you're not willing to learn and you're setting the example, then your team's not going to be willing to learn either. So yeah, I like that. We don't have all the answers. So, I love that. So kind of shifting gears a little bit here, I want to go into a little bit, what would you say, you know, let's say like the loan officer that's doing 2 to 3 loans a month right now, you know, and maybe they don't want to do, you know, 93 loans in a month, or maybe they don't have that ambition to build a team or like, what is the loan officer doing that's kind of struggling, or even realtor for that matter? Because we have a lot of realtors tuned in right now that's doing, you know, a couple loans a month and they want to make, you know, they want to get it to 5 or 6 loans a month and they want to double their business, right? But they don't really know what to like. What would you say to that loan officer in terms of, hey, you can get there and here are some tactical things that you should be doing to get from 2 to 3 loans a month or house sales or whatever to 5 to 7 loans a month. Here's what you would need to do to get there in 12 months.
Yeah. Well, so the first thing is you need to set your goals. You need to know where you're going. So you got to kind of paint a picture of what that looks like. Who is your target market? Who are you going to go after? But the first thing is also realizing that, hey, there is no magic pill. There's no magic app out there. There's no magic lead company that you can buy leads from that it's just going to solve all your problems. I think if I could teach, anybody, there is no magic thing it's pure tactical sales activities. You call people, you see people, you eat, have happy hours with people, you write letters to people, handwritten notes to people. So, probably the biggest thing is you got to set goals. You got to break down how many leads a day you need to hit those goals. And you just need to do the daily sales activities to get those leads. So if you want to think of a tactic, one thing that we follow is we have theme days. On Mondays, we call a certain amount of realtors. So if I was a loan officer doing 2 to 3 loans, I'd set my Monday, I'd make a list of 40 realtors, and I would call 20 every Monday. On Tuesdays, I would do update calls to my listing agents, my buying agents, and my borrowers. On Wednesdays, I would call the people that are pre-approved and ask them how it's going. Hey, do you want some updated numbers? We need to talk about payments again. Stay in front of them. Thursdays, I would call past clients and sphere of influence, people that we've served before, people that are friends and family. And then on Fridays, I would call business people. I would get out in the community, go to, look for businesses, build relationships. So those are, tactical things that it really comes down to activities. You set the plan and you just run the play. So, after you have those foundations, if you're seeing 3-4 people a day, you're calling 20 people a day and talking to 10, you're writing a couple handwritten notes, appreciating people, showing gratitude for, building relationships. You're going to run across people that need to finance a home or buy and sell a home. I mean, we kind of, at the end of last year, we have over 3,000 unique clients that we've served in the past. And we were spending so much energy going after, how do we meet new people? How do we meet new realtors? And we're like, wait a minute, why are, if an average person moves once every 7 years, buys or sells a home, that's 14% of any database that's going to do a loan in the net, buy or sell a home in the next 12 months. Right. So for every 100 people that we served in the past, 14 of them are going to buy and sell a home in the next 12 months, whether we are here or not. So we needed to, so we put as one of our rocks in our vision traction organizer to a plan to stay in front of our past clients. Let them know that we care. Let them know that our real job started after their loan funded. And so that's a big focus too. So it's really making lists, tracking your leads, following up with them. There's 4 parts to a sale. You got to make contact. You got to build rapport. You got to have the skills to educate and close them. And you got to follow up.
And that realization of how much energy and money, right, actually takes to get that new client versus focusing on retaining that business. When did you guys realize that? Do you feel like really, implemented some things to realize that? And what are some things that you do to do that? Curious.
You mean to scale?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, with realizing, I think you said that part of what you do is, realizing that clients are moving every 7 years and such. And so staying, capturing their additional loans, right? That recurring business.
Yeah. So basically, what are we doing?
Yeah. For so.
And when did you realize
our
that?
focus on our database and realize these are people that are actually that we've already
they're doing it again.
We would always have people, calling us from our database. We're very real estate agent centric. We serve the real estate agent community at a high level, and that's where we get that's where we're able to serve 75-80% of our families, and then the rest coming from our database. We weren't you know, out of 3,000 people, you know, there's 400, 500, 600, you know, loans happening. We weren't getting even half of that. So Bill and I realized, you know, actually setting our plan for 2019, we need to do something in a big way to stay in front of our past clients. Let them know. I mean, half of them would just call you back if they just remember your name and number. You know, we think we're all big and they're always going to remember, but they just don't. They don't remember who. So if we stay in front of them in a very consistent way, you know, they'll call. People are refinancing, they're consolidating debt, they're adding onto their homes, they need to move up, they're having kids, they need more bedrooms. You just got to stay in front of them, let you know that, hey, we are still here to serve. So
I think one of the things though that they've done really well in the past is closing gifts to say like, here's a way for us, but and invite them to happy hour. So it was very
Closing gifts. I've heard that
relationship, but they were relationship focused in terms of like, you know, they didn't just have a happy hour to get new people. They were like, hey, we just helped you with this. So they've been very, very consistent in saying, come meet the team who helped you, come get to know us. Like that's what they've done for a really, really long time. But I think one of the biggest things is a monthly newsletter that basically is putting them in front, saying like, here's a huge piece of value for you, and with our name on it, so you know who we are, and you know, continually providing value once a month with information on their house. That's probably one of the newest things, but consistently in the past has been happy hours, meeting face to face, building a relationship there. But yeah, biggest shift is the monthly contact.
Yeah, so we need to stay in front of them. So our plan, we need to touch them 2 or 3 times a month. We have an automated way to stay in front of them once a month. We call them. We use ABC calls. I think I mentioned ABC calls earlier. You're basically taking the first letter of the last name, and you're calling that group of past clients in week 1. You're calling B's in week 2. You're calling C's in week 3. And if you do that and you're just touching base, hey, you know, you're doing mortgage checkups, you're asking how things are going, you're building relationships over time. If you follow that, you're talking to people, or at least they're hearing from you twice a year.
I like that.
That's awesome. I love all the theme stuff too, because it makes it very simple. Like the theme week, what I like about the theme week too is that it kind of satisfies the human being and the LO's need for variety. You know, it's not like we're just going to chase realtors all day, every day. It's like, well, I mean, we do need past client business. We need other things, and it kind of mixes it up. But then also that LO or realtor should do this too, right? It keeps them, they're not confused on what they should be doing on a Tuesday. So many salespeople are just, you know, like Rick Ruby calls it the 1099 disease, right? It's like they don't know what they should be doing. They can do whatever the hell they want. So there's no structure, right? And so with the theme days and with the calling, the alphabet thing, I'd never heard of that before. That just keeps you on pace with this is what we need to do. There is no questioning what are we supposed to be doing right now, which is why part of my opinion is like, well, you should be doing your job. And it's like, okay, well, if my job, like you said, is to make calls, send thank you cards, do this and this and this, then why wouldn't somebody do their job and go from 2 loans a month to 5 or 6, you know? And so I guess that'd be my next question. And you seem like, you know, again, you and Bill are ambitious guys. Maybe it wasn't hard for you, but how does somebody develop the mindset in order to, as I say, as I've kind of said on a lot of these, is just do their job, right? It's like the job is not hard. It's what you just said in a nutshell. Why does somebody on the team, or why do people in general, what do you think it is that makes them not do their job?
Well, I mean, so once you have you set your goals and you make a plan that's very tactical, you're either choosing to do it or you're choosing not to do it. And I mean, it's not like we're 100%, like we know what we're supposed to do every day. And it's not like we're perfect. So we fall off, we start to get an influx of leads. We stop doing the tactical things that got us there. So it does go in waves, but it's really a choice of your why. Like, why are we doing this? I mean, when I think of, at this point, if we take care of this team properly, this team takes care of clients properly. I have a really big philosophy that stability, long-term stability in our country starts with home ownership. So, that's kind of our passion. Like, we want to help more people buy a home. We believe we serve them at a higher level. We're setting a standard. We need to improve. And that's foundationally with our team. Like, I want everyone on our team to buy a home. I want them to save money. I want them to be stable. Then we can go serve more people. So, you also need structure and process. And then the most important thing is people. But you need the right people, but you got to have a system and structure to scale to deliver an experience that is consistent. We use Salesforce. We've developed it for almost 10 years. It's a never-ending process. It can always get better. We have hundreds of workflows, hundreds of dashboards that are directing what people to do each and every day. Without that, you can't scale. Without something like that, you can't scale. But if you're starting out and you're doing 2 to 3 loans or 2 to 3 real estate transactions, a month, and you want to go to 6, and that's your next step, this is very tactical. You set the plan and you choose to do it or not. You can choose to make 20 calls or not. You can choose to write 2 handwritten notes. You can choose to go have coffee or lunch or dinner or happy hour with one person a day. So it's just really a choice, and how bad you want to reach your goals.
Yeah. And talking about that client experience, I want to get into that. What you said, having a scalable, amazing client experience. What does having an amazing client experience mean to you guys? What does that look like? How do you create that? I mean, I feel like as things get more and more commoditized, right, in any industry, for, not just real estate and loans, and just, the product starts to become, it's what's better, what's a better rate. Like, it just becomes interesting, right? And so what do you guys do to ensure, and what does it look like to create an amazing client experience, which you guys do a good job of? It doesn't matter if you're top of mind and they remember you if they had a terrible experience, right? So what do you guys do to ensure an amazing client experience, and what does that look like when someone does a loan with you guys?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a good question. The first thing I would say is you can't make it too complicated. I mean, you gotta put yourself in a borrower's shoes. What do they want? And what keeps stress low? They don't buy and sell houses every day. They don't go get loans every day. Most of the things in our business don't make sense to them. So you have to educate really, really well. That's the very first thing. You have to teach them. You have to give them the information they need to make good decisions. You have to show them the roadmap of what's the first step, second step, third step, all the way to the 12th step. So they see the roadmap and when are things supposed to happen. And then you need to communicate really, really well throughout that process and guide them through that roadmap. A lot of people don't show the plan to a borrower when they get into contract, or they don't educate them properly on their options and impounds and rates and borrower paid MI and lender paid MI. I love that commercial with Ricky Fowler. Like, what does MI even mean, Rick? But you educate them properly, and then you communicate it throughout the process. And then, and you do what you say you're going to do. You execute on time, and you keep stress low. So, we systematically do that with our CRM and our Salesforce. Each loan that's put in process has about 30 tasks that immediately kick off. They're specifically planned. We can see when things are going off track, but we still make mistakes. We still have unhappy clients sometimes. I mean, it's a really, really complicated, difficult world still in this business. I think it is going to get better. I think there is a sizable change that is evolving right now, but it's really, educating, telling them what you're going to do, and doing what you said you're going to do. And you can't. You have to treat each client like they're your only client. We can't tell people, hey, we're super busy right now. We have 90 other borrowers. We'll get back to you in 2 days. It's just, you have to feel like our best testimonial is, wow, I really felt like I was your only customer. And wow. that is the best testimonial we get.
They actually just asked one of our personal loan managers, one of our clients, he's like, am I your only person? Because I don't understand. Like, you make me feel like
That's awesome.
And she's
That's
like,
incredible.
But
it's almost counterintuitive, because sometimes as a big team, you want to give that perception that, like, we're busy, we have a lot of business going on, and that's a very interesting point. I think that is a better way to do it. Making them feel important, making them feel like they're what matters versus like, we're so busy, you're lucky to work with us, right? That's not.
And you're staying ahead of it. You're staying ahead of it, because they don't have that opportunity to be like, why aren't they calling? So you're really heading some things off. Cool. I haven't heard that before.
And sizable change is what I wrote down, Sam, is that's something you said, you see a sizable change coming. And my next question that I had in my brain was to talk about industry shifts, right? You mentioned kind of pre-2008, and obviously here we are in 2019. What industry shifts do you see coming up here? What would that sizable change mean that you're kind of mentioning there, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, I mean, the last 10 years, the last 8 years has really been after the 2008, crash or recession or whatever you want to call it. There's been so much time and energy and resources spent in dealing with the regulatory solution that came out.
Mm-hmm.
That took away from, a consumer-driven experience. It really took all the resources. So now you're starting to see those resources, capital being spent on creating an experience that the consumer is demanding. I mean, the Amazons, the Ubers, like this type of experience is what they're demanding, and the mortgage industry is just way behind. So what we're experiencing even now is, our system at Loan Depot has, data sources built in, integrated with our LOS system. So what you're going to start seeing is, and it's already happening, is people are going to be able to get loans with verified, validated, income, assets, and credit without having to provide documentation, because all this data is out there. Mm-hmm. So it's going to get to a point where I believe, a person will just be perpetually qualified at any given point in time. It'll enhance the experience that we can give them. So the technology is enhancing what we're doing. They still need somebody to educate them on, their options and make sure things are done properly. I mean, it still is a physical house. It does have title. It does have an appraisal. It does have, a lot of things that people don't do every day. So I just think that we'll be able to do more loans with the same amount of people, and serve more people at a high level. So you're seeing this shift already happening. I forget what Fannie Mae calls it, day one certainty. Fannie Mae calls it day one certainty. It's really data out in the cloud, where we can capture that data for the client, validate things. And really, I mean, sometimes it happens now where we're like, hey, we don't need anything from you. We just need a picture of your license. And they're like, what? So there's a sizable shift coming like that. And it's being driven by consumer demand.
Got it. Yeah. It's interesting when you hear somebody like you that is, because you talked about optimism earlier, and I've always seen optimism as being a rational way to approach business. There's so much fear around it too, of like, oh, are we going to be eliminated, right? Or like you can look at any industry and say that, right? But the good people, the experts that will still be around, that will always be relevant, are the ones that are like, well, how can we leverage this technology to be better versus being afraid of it? And so I like what you said there, because that's how I see it too, because it's not something people are doing every day, nor do they want to, right? You could change your own oil as well, right? And it's like, well, how can we get more efficient and then leverage that to do more volume, is the way that a champion looks at what's coming versus somebody who's afraid looks at what's coming. So I like that a lot. I only have one more question, guys. You guys have been super generous with your time, and really appreciate that. But what does, the work-life balance thing comes up a lot, right? You have 4 kids and you got a wife, and obviously you got a big team and all the rest of it. What does that look like for Sam? How do you balance it all? Is balance the wrong word? What does it look like for you to have a not overly stressed, a happy, fulfilled, meaningful, but also healthy lifestyle in congruency with still running a big, badass monster team? So how does that look for you?
You just have to design it. You have to plan to have the balance. You have to calendar things so that you have the balance. You have to, keep your health. You got to stay healthy. You got to work out. You got to eat right. So you have energy. You have to trust your team. You have to trust that they're doing what they're supposed to do. I'm just in a period where, I have kids graduating from high school and into college and graduating from grade school. And so it's super important. You can't keep burning the candle at both ends. I mean, that's really what pushed me into this industry is I was doing that. But it's really about setting your goals, building a team, taking care of clients, maintaining and building relationships, and, planning how many hours you're going to work a week. I used to work 80 hours a week. Sometimes I didn't come home for 2 days at General Dynamics. And, that just gets to a point where you can't maintain it. So you have to plan it. Like, I'm going to work 40 hours a week. And, we have teams and resources and structure and process to consistently take care of customers and our referral partners. It's not like, I'm available at any time, but you just have to plan it and you have to be committed to it.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, you have to commit to your plan. Otherwise, you're just going to end up, you don't have standards, and then you'll do whatever, respond to whatever, take on whatever. And then what's interesting is when you're clear and committed to your standards, the team around you starts to protect you as well, because they are clear with what your standards are too, because you're not making exceptions. You're like, hey, you know what? What do you think the best solution is there? Well, hey, go, come to me with the solution, see if you think that's good. And then empower, like you said, when you empower the people around you, that's how you're able to get to that good lifestyle. And they know, like Eric Gilman, who you guys may have seen in San Diego, Sarah, you probably don't know this. Eric's always like, dude, I just stopped asking you questions because every time I asked you a question, you'd ask me a question back. And now I just kind of figured it out. Like, there you go, dude. You learn a lot more by figuring out than if I had answered every single one of those questions. So,
oh man.
So that's everything I had. This was super valuable, guys. Thanks for doing this with us and to our community. Sarah, did you have anything that was on your mind? I got a bunch of notes and books to read, so hopefully people watch.
Yeah, exactly. No, digesting that, and thank you for sharing it. Look forward to doing it again sometime, because I think things always are changing, and that we're here for you, and we appreciate you guys being one of our top, most awesome clients, and just love sharing the love. So thank you.
Oh, hey, the people love. I mean, we send a box with a cutting board, a nice knife, a towel. They love, the feedback we get from that is just so unreal. So we appreciate all the support too.
Absolutely. All right.
Hey, thank you guys so much, Sam and Sam. Tell Bill we said hello, and I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. You guys have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much. Bye.
See you guys. Have a good day.
Yeah.